How's it going, everybody? So yesterday I posted something on YouTube about how to fish the Jigga Bead and the Mule, and I got some questions on people asking, you know, why not tie it off the back of the regular jig? Why do you have to fish the jig in that manner? So let me illustrate a couple things that are reasons why we don't do it that way. So if you're fishing a regular jig, flashy little jig here. So if you're fishing a regular little jig and you tie something here off the back of it, you're going to basically create a rudder for your jig. So now you have this pulling the weight behind it, so the jig doesn't move that much. So you don't really catch that many fish on the jig because it doesn't have the movement as it would if it was just by itself. So I always tell people that if you're gonna do it and you don't, for money or whatever, you don't want to buy the jig, you need to try to get it tied as close to here as possible, but it's still not going to give you the same motion, and I'll show what I mean. So with that being said, by putting the eye right here, this allows the jig to move any which way you want. So let me show you. This is the Mule right here. And when it's just, it literally will start spinning around in the water. So it'll catch different water currents and different seams, and it'll spin and give you more motion. If I had something behind it, it wouldn't move at all. It would just stay right there. So you're not going to get the same production out of your upper jig as you would your bottom one. And the other part that a lot of guys I've noticed just watching a lot of these videos, is they're foul hooking a lot of fish, and that's simply because they may be coming up and grabbing this one, and it's coming down and catching them with this one. With a jig, we don't have that issue because generally they come up and grab the jig, they've got it. It's game over. And the same with the bottom. So that's just a little quick tip for you guys. One more thing, people have asked me what kind of float I use, what kind of rod I use. So this is a Drennan 8-gram float that I buy from the UK. And I use it because it gives me, it's very stellar because it's clear. So the only thing I can see is this little orange top going down the river. And it gives me direction as far as what's happening with my jigs. When I'm jig fishing, I don't want my bobber to be like this going down the river because it's just dragging everything and it's not giving it a dead free drift. Now you can catch fish that way. I'm not saying you can't, because obviously bobber dogging is very popular. But what I'm saying is that I really feel that a dead free drift with that bobber straight up and down, I literally, so many times I will sit and get a drift and I'll cast and I'll get a cast. And I was fishing with a guy from California and I was trying to explain that to him. And I said, nope, not that one. And I'd make another cast and nope, not that one. Because the hydraulics underneath the water were so turbulent that it really had a hard time slipping into that seam where they hold. So after about 15 casts, my bobber just went like this and started to float. I go, yep, there it is. And bobber went down. So I know that this works. If that bobber is moving at the speed of the current and it's straight up and down, you are fishing. And that is the tell sign that you're going to catch something. I will catch a fish every now and then like this. I don't prefer it like that. I prefer it like this. Obviously, my float is very thin and small. So if I did hook a fish, it's not going to hook it very easily. I want to be able to be on top of it, and I want to feel that fish right out of the gate. I don't have too many problems setting the hook just because I am using a jig. Also, the other thing, here's the Mule up top, and then below I've got the Jigga Bead. So, and then also what I'll do, I like my floats to be fixed. So I've got a little surgical tubing above and below that. The reason I do that is I fish a lot of, you can notice a lot of small creeks because I can just get away from people and they have a lot of natural native runs and it's just a nice time. I don't have to deal with as many people, but it's a very stealthy way. But more importantly, when the water gets low, a fixed float is going to fish a lot better than a slip float. And the reason why that is that it's going to get down faster. So unless you add a ton of weight, your jig or your beads won't get down at the head of the run where a lot of those steelhead like to hold. When the water gets low, they like to tuck in right in the lip. And so they'll sit right there and you just won't get down with the slip float because it has too much tension on it. So if you have any more questions or you want any more, I'm going to try to do a little video like this. I don't know how often, just kind of based on demand. But also I run a little swivel right there and it just keeps everything in line. So the other thing that I'll discuss tomorrow is I will show you the hybrid system as far as my line. Because I have fluorocarbon, then about 15 feet I have braided braided line, and then I have monofilament behind that. I might as well just tell you guys now. So, all right, so I don't have to do it tomorrow. So basically what I wanted to do is that a lot of people don't realize that fluorocarbon sinks 3 times faster than monofilament. So if you're drift fishing, you want to be using monofilament. If you're drift fishing or you're side drifting, you want to use monofilament, not fluorocarbon. Because what will happen is the fluorocarbon will literally sink and get you hung up and you'll lose more of your terminal gear. The monofilament is more buoyant, and so it rises up a little bit, higher in the water column. The fluorocarbon sinks. So my first initial, the terminal end of this is all fluorocarbon. And I generally go from 15 feet or 15 pound to 10 pound to 8 pound. And then when I get back to the back end of this, when I have my, I don't know what you call it, but the middle section of my line is, I think it's P-line, braided P-line, like 40 pound. And you got to mess around with the knots just to get them nice and smooth. But the nice thing about that is that I will put floatant on that line so it will float on the water, and it makes my line really easy to mend and give me the proper presentation that I want to get. Then once I'm back behind that, I have just monofilament. So that when I do long drifts, I'm sure a lot of you guys realize that, braided line sometimes doesn't peel off the reel quite as easy as monofilament. So when I'm getting any long drifts, I want to be able to just hit that mono and just let it run on the way out. So that's how I set up my line system. Again, we do things a little bit different here. We've been, I hate to say this all the time, but we've done this an awful lot, and I've fished with a lot of great fishermen, and this is literally the best way that we've found to fish these creeks or basically any river or that has steelhead in it. And I will tell you this, that the jig and this Jigga Bead, this Mule, this is actually a glass bead, and it's got a mirror inside of it. So it literally pops when you strobe, and I'll pull this out a little bit. So when I'm sitting here, you can see it flash, or maybe you can't, but it flashes and pops. It catches any light, and that little mirror catches it. So I love fishing this. Sometimes it's not quite of 1/8 of an ounce, but it is a little weight to it. So sometimes I might run a little split shot above this just to get me down. Anyway, thanks for watching again, and let us know if we can help you out with anything. You can subscribe to us, please. I bumped up to, I think, 13. So we gained 2 subscribers. Please subscribe and Look for notifications because we'll be doing all kinds of little videos like this. And you can go onto our channel, and we have a fair amount of videos already up on us fishing this method on all kinds of creeks all over Washington and Oregon and Northern California. You can see it, watch us doing that. Also, if you want to get in on the custom Jigga Beads and Mules, you can sign up for the Jigga Bead Club. I think it's just $15 a month, and we're going to send you X amount of completely custom mules and Jigga Beads. And you will be also, we're looking at doing a discounted for the people that do subscribe. If they do want to buy more stuff than what we send them, we're going to put in a promo code that will be given to just members that are members of our club. So anyway, please subscribe, become a member of the Jigga Bead Club, and join the group. It's a lot of fun. You're going to catch a lot more fish. Thanks.